You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio. It's the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. You know, if you don't know what your purpose in life is, how can you build a business designed to give you the life that you want? It is something that you need to ask yourself before you jump into business and begin to do all of the things that entrepreneurs and rebelpreneurs do. What is your purpose? Not your purpose for your business, but the purpose of your life. How do you define happiness? How do you define success? Today's guest has been studying this and interviewing hundreds of people around the world to figure out how they live their lives on Cloud 9, and he can't wait to share his findings with us. I am speaking today with Jordan Gross. He is a Northwestern and Kellogg School of Management graduate, a two-time startup founder, a TEDx speaker, and a #1 best-selling author. His upcoming book, The Journey to Cloud 9, provides a new approach to the personal development world by using fictional storytelling to reveal some of life's most meaningful principles. Jordan, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Hey, Ralph, I still got my head bobbing from the intro music. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for that really kind intro, and I'm so excited to chat with you and share with the listeners how you can start living your life on Cloud 9.
Sounds wonderful. Well, I have always said, and I've repeated it on the show here, that the purpose of business is to give you the life that you want. I actually borrowed that from Michael Gerber. The purpose of the business is to give you the life that you want. And so it just makes sense. If you don't know the kind of life that you want, if you don't know what's going to make you happy, how can you build a business to deliver that life? So I'm really excited to chat with you and find out your perspective on this. First of all, tell us the story behind Cloud 9. How does that philosophy or that phraseology sum up your philosophy?
Yeah, so the origin story is that I'm here in New York City right now, and I was driving in an Uber on the East River on the FDR. And I'm usually the person, Ralph, who is talking to the Uber driver, asking a million questions, trying to make the ride less boring for that person and myself. But after a long day, it was a Sunday evening, I just kind of sat in the back quietly. And as I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the water and I'm looking at the sun and I'm looking at the boats that were passing. And I see one particular boat that's called Cloud 9. And for some reason, that name jumped out at me. And I decided to break the silence. And I decided to ask the Uber driver what Cloud 9 meant to him. So he starts telling me about the day he got married. He starts telling me about the day he had his children. He starts telling me about an uninterrupted moment of play when he was a child. And he's telling me all these stories about these momentous occasions he had in his life, and that had he listened to other people and done what others wanted him to do, he may not have experienced those Cloud 9 moments. So I'm thinking, and I'm asking more people what Cloud 9 means to them. And I start picking up on patterns. Like you said, I've interviewed hundreds of people at this point. And the patterns are not just these momentous occasions, but they're also these sort of life concepts that we have to live by. So with that, I sort of said, okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to come up with all these insights. I'm going to put all these interviews together. And then the way that my mind works is that I always want to be a little bit different. I always want to think a little bit differently. I'm a trailblazer, right? So I want to blaze new trails, not only for myself, but for other people as well.
Yeah, that's a rebelpreneur mindset right there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Then that's why I'm here. So instead of just coming out with the traditional self-help book, I said, what if I made this into an allegory? And I created a story of somebody who may or may not be living his or her cloud nine life. And I'm going to show, rather than tell the listeners, the audience members, the readers, what cloud nine really means and how to live that cloud nine life. So that's what I did. And that's the book that I have coming out. And then through creative storytelling, I'm able to help people uncover their cloud nine lives as well.
I really love that approach. And it is very different and very unique. I love the showing as opposed to telling. And the whole storytelling thing, my professional and academic interest is in narrative persuasion and telling stories, whether they are true stories or fictional stories, to communicate great truths. That is something that is a technique utilized by all of the wise men and women of the world down through history. So I really love this approach. And what I like about this concept of cloud nine is everyone will define it differently. It's not going to be how I see success or how I define what happiness is. It's how each one of us, how you define your cloud nine is going to be very different from mine. But you have discovered some meaningful principles in all of the different people that you've talked to. There are some commonalities. I'm wondering if you would share with us what some of those major life's principles are that you've discovered.
Yeah, absolutely. And you really hit the nail on the head there in that everybody has a different interpretation of cloud nine. And also, your interpretation of cloud nine for yourself is going to differ based on the day, right? And your cloud nine moments are going to differ based on the day. So that's just something to think about as well. So essentially, there were two different subsets of discoveries that I came up with from the cloud nine. And it's the life events that we experience that people normally go to when they think of that cloud nine euphoria. But then there are also the concepts that the life events relate to. And I'll kind of go through each one by telling a quick little anecdote of somebody who I talked to. I'll say, the momentous life occasion, and then I'll share the principle that I came up with. So, number one, somebody once told me a story about how when he's on the basketball court, it's like nothing he's ever felt in his life. And he's in his 30s or maybe even 40s at this point. But every time he gets out on the basketball court, he's on cloud nine. So the concept here and the life event is a moment of play. So that first concept is playfulness, right? Yeah. This uninterrupted feeling of pure joy. That's number one. So number two is going to be camaraderie. So one of my favorite stories is from a girl who she remembered when she was in high school. It was the last night before they went off. Her and her friends all went off to college, and she just sort of looked through the window at her friends having a pool party. And she just had this inexplicable feeling of the chills just roll throughout her body, right? So that feeling of just camaraderie, having people in your life who are around you, those are the relationships, the human connections that we need to experience. So that's number two. Number three is love. So the specifics, there are so many stories I get related to love. But the main ones are wedding proposals, the weddings themselves, and things like that. So true acts of love. That's number three. It's the third principle. Number four is going to be responsibility. And I say responsibility here and the life event that it relates to. Like today, for instance, I shared a cloud nine moment. My friend Danny Shannon, he talked about how every single time he sees his daughter, it makes him realize that he has to stay sober. He's a recovering alcoholic and drug addict because he has this newfound sense of responsibility. So having a child is that sense of responsibility that we all need to think about something that's much larger than us. So that's number four. Number five is going to be benevolence. And what I mean by benevolence is acts that are, again, much greater than ourselves. So one of my favorite cloud nine moments is from a couple of guys who started a company called Universal Dialect. and they basically give soccer balls to people in need around the world. And they were out in some foreign country, and without any strings attached, they just left their soccer ball with the kids that they were playing with. And that was the first time they ever left people a soccer ball. And they ended up creating a company, an apparel company, where every 2 items sold, they give a soccer ball around the world to a community who needs it.
Really
so
cool.
That act of benevolence is so brilliant. So that's number 5. Number 6 is going to be a true sense of calling. So that's the career related ones. Those are the accomplishments. Those are, again, you're living in your life towards something that has meaning, that has purpose, that has fulfillment. So for all the Rebelpreneurs, this is what we decide to work on, right? This is a lot of the coaching that I do. How do we find meaningful work, right? So some of my favorite stories are people who left that, my favorite story from the book, actually no spoilers, I won't tell you. But one of my favorite stories is just, one of my clients in the past, just working with him and realizing that he needed to get out of his corporate job to work for a startup company, right? Something as simple as that. Number 7 is the concept of empathy. So the Cloud9 journey really comes full circle. And one of the moments that really always rings true in my mind is from a woman named Kathleen Gage. And Kathleen told me a story about how she was there when her mother passed away. And she was saying how that for the final years of her life, whereas her mother was the one who took care of her entire life, now in these last 3 months, it was sort of like she understood what it felt like to really take care of somebody for such a long time, because she was taking care of her mother as she passed. So that's that sense of empathy that's so important for Cloud 7 or Concept 7. Concept 8 is a realization. So this is sort of like a presence of the moment where you can experience these Cloud9 moments every single day, right? Somebody told me once that he was doing a form of meditation, and a hummingbird just came up to him, started flying around his head, and he was just totally immersed in this beautiful moment. And he had the realization of how precious life is. So that's the 8th cloud. And then finally, the 9th cloud is opportunities for resurgence. So if throughout your entire life, you've never felt like you've been on Cloud 9 before, Cloud 9 is actually the ultimate, it's like the peak where you realize no matter what happened in your life in the past, you have an opportunity to have this resurgence, redefine your future, and go about the rest of your life doing whatever it is that you want to do rather than what you've had to do for the other part of your life. So that brings it all full circle. So that's the Cloud9 journey. It's the ultimate voyage to self-realization through storytelling.
Very powerful principles. And looking at this as a strategist, you've been able to identify these principles from all of the stories that you have collected from people. When I look at these principles written out in front of me, it strikes me that one thing that is common to all of them is the sense of connection with other people. I think there is this tendency to believe that in order to find my purpose, I have to climb a tall mountain, sit in solitude for several months, and get this eureka moment. And everything you described, playfulness, camaraderie, love, responsibility, benevolence, all of these things that you have discovered are discoveries that we make in the course of our interaction with other people. So a big part of this is getting out of yourself, getting involved in someone and something bigger than yourself. And then lo and behold, you figure out that there's actual bliss in serving others, being with others, experiencing life with other people. And it's actually getting out of your world and getting involved in other people's worlds that helps you to make this journey to Cloud9.
Yep. You could not be more right, Ralph. That is so beautifully said. And you know what? You look at those principles that I ended up, figuring out, and there is that one opportunity to take that trek up a mountain or to go sit in solitude. It's that 8th cloud, the realization. But those are more the daily ones that you can have, right? A moment of solitude a day is great. I think you need that. But if you really want to live a life of meaning and purpose, introvert or extrovert, by the way, that human connection is so paramount. And it even comes back to happiness at its purest and simplest form. Just yesterday, I walked up to a homeless man outside of the Starbucks that I usually go to on the corner of 40th and Lexington here in New York. And I don't know what came over me, just kind of like with the boat question, asking the Uber driver about Cloud9. But I walked up to him and I said, when's the happiest you've ever been? Or what's the happiest part of your day? And at first he looked at me, he said, man, I haven't had happy days in a long time. But I said, I asked him for his name. His name is Kevin. And I said, if you could really try, please tell me, like, when are you happy? And he said, you know what, man, I think it's when I'm helping people, because that's when I get to be my true self. And I don't think anybody's judging me. If I'm helping people, they don't judge my situation. So yeah, it's that simple, that little thing of just doing good for others, right? So I say it's happiness in its purest form is helping other people, because here is this person who is probably the last human being or the last type of human being you'd expect to be happy, somebody who doesn't have basic needs, doesn't have shelter, doesn't have much food, right? And the thing that makes him happy is helping other people. Like that's an eye opener, you know? So if you're out there not really understanding why you're doing the work you're doing, or what it is that you're supposed to be doing with your work, start from a place of giving, and you'll really understand a lot about yourself and a lot about the work that you're supposed to be doing.
Very, very powerful, especially with so much of the self-indulgent personal development, typical teachings that are out there. I think this is so refreshing, coming at it from a different perspective. And I actually think it helps you to get to Cloud9 a lot faster. And what a great story there I mean, if the homeless guy can find fulfillment in helping others, then really what excuse do we have? Right? I mean, we've got all of these opportunities and sitting around, unhappy. And, so this is really powerful, and I'm really, excited to read your book. It's The Journey to Cloud9. And this is using a fictional storytelling approach to reveal some of life's most meaningful principles. And it's based on all the people that you have talked to all over the world.
That's right.
Jordan, someone who's listening and they want to get started on their journey to Cloud9, what do you suggest? How can they begin to get out of themselves a little bit more and begin to experience some of the same bliss and happiness and really meaningful life experiences of some of the people that you have talked to? What would be some suggestions that they can begin to put into practice right now?
Oh my goodness. You're like a mind reader, Ralph. I ask people, they're called Cloud9 interviews, and I ask 9 questions, right? I'm very thematic and symbolic, and everything has to do with a 9 in my life right now. Like I wake up at everything 5:09 and I do, those kind of things. But anyway, the 9th question that I ask all these people who I've interviewed is, if somebody came up to you and said, hey, Cloud9 sounds great, but I have no idea how to even begin, what's the first thing that you'd recommend I do? So I've got hundreds of answers for you. And if you want to go find those other answers, they're on my website. But for me, I would say 2 very simple things. And I hate to be a broken record here, but number 1 is to go out and do something for others as opposed to yourself, purely out of the interest of helping other people. That would be the first thing. And then the second thing for Cloud9, to start realizing how to get to the life that you deserve, is actually to, I ask this question to people. I say, ask yourself, if there was a 30-minute impromptu assessment that you had to take, and you can talk about one topic in the world, think about that one topic, and then start to understand why you chose that topic, right? That's what you should be living your life according to. That's what really lights you up, clearly. So for me, it's always about, these creative ways to understand purpose as opposed to just like, hey, what would you do if money didn't matter? I try to think about questions that really make you tell yourself a different story.
I like that. And thinking about that makes it different. I mean, because we've all heard the different ways people try to engage us with that question. If you had 6 months to live, what would you do? And most people get overwhelmed thinking about that. But that's a really, it's a neat way to reposition the question and ask it in a different way and really tap into it. And I think a lot of people could answer that. And like you said, it's going to be different for different people. And that's really the beauty of this whole thing.
That's right. It's absolutely right. So like I said, there's a lot more answers out there. Those are the two that I would do though right away if I wasn't feeling like I was having a Cloud 9 day. Awesome.
Jordan, what would working with you really do for people who need that extra help and that extra accountability? I'm seeing some of the people featured on your website. What do you offer that would help people get to where they want to be, get to that Cloud 9 existence, a little bit faster than trying to figure it out on their own? Yeah.
So something my mom and I always say whenever we like a movie or a TV show or a book is that it really made us feel all the feels. So working with me allows you to feel all the feels. We'll probably laugh. We'll probably cry. We'll probably smile. But the one feeler that I think you'll do with me as opposed to anybody else is that you'll think differently. You'll have this creative process where you'll really dive into your own life and your own stories. And it gives you a way and an opportunity to become a trailblazer for your own thoughts and be that, rebelpreneur in your own life as well.
I love that.
That's probably the differentiator.
Yeah. Excellent. The website is journeytocloud9.com, and you write that out, journeytocloud9.com, and we'll have that link on the Rebelpreneur website so that people can check that out. Jordan, this has really been an inspirational conversation, and I'm looking forward to reading more in your book to find out and dig even deeper into this philosophy of Cloud 9. So I really appreciate you being on the show. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, absolutely, Ralph. And by the way, so there are those free chapters for you to hopefully dive into as well, and hopefully we can get that to the audience too. But the last thing I'll say is that in trying to interpret the life of your dreams, your Cloud 9 life, I would say to use your imagitivitation. And what I mean by your imagitivitation, it's a phrase that I came up with. It's about using your imagination, your creativity, interpreting what that means, and then implementing into your life. So imagitivitation, imagination, creativity, interpretation, and implementation. And that'll get you on the right track to reaching Cloud 9.
Excellent. Words of wisdom from Jordan Gross. He is a Northwestern and Kellogg School of Management graduate, a 2-time startup founder, a TEDx speaker, and a #1 best-selling author. His upcoming book, The Journey to Cloud 9, provides a new approach to the personal development world by using fictional storytelling to reveal some of life's most meaningful principles. You can learn more and connect with Jordan at journeytocloud9.com. Jordan, thank you so much for sharing your time with us on Rebelpreneur Radio today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ralph. That was awesome. I really appreciate you. Have a great day.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.